The image of the Australian soldier, the digger, has been etched into the national psyche for a century. It is the image of a lean, sunburned man in a slouch hat, covered in the dust of Tobruk, the thick mud of Kokoda, or the fine, choking sand of Uruzgan province. For the last 20 years, the Australian Army was fundamentally a desert army. It was built to fight insurgents in the Middle East alongside the Americans. It was light, mobile, and designed to survive IEDs on lonely roads in Afghanistan. It was an army of Toyota Land Cruisers and Bushmasters. But if you look at the training grounds of Shoalwater Bay in Queensland today, that army is gone. The dust has been replaced by salt spray. The Humvees have been replaced by monsters of steel, composite rubber tracks, and ceramic armor. In 2026, the Australian Army is unrecognizable. It has shed its desert skin and emerged as a high-tech porcupine. Small, compact, but so heavily armed and so dangerously spiked that any predator who touches it will bleed. The centerpiece of this transformation is rolling off a shiny new production line in Geelong, Victoria, right now. It is the AS-21 Redback infantry fighting vehicle. And it is, without hyperbole, the most advanced, most heavily protected infantry carrier on the planet. For decades, Australian manufacturing was a punchline. We dig things up, but we don't build things. We were a quarry with a beach. That era is over. The Hanwha Armoured Vehicle Centre of Excellence, HISE, in Geelong is not just an assembly plant, it is a fortress of sovereign capability. It is a statement that Australia can build the machines of war at home. The Redback is not a taxi for troops. It is a tank killer. It weighs 42 tons, heavier than a Russian T-72 main battle tank. It is armed with a 30mm Mk44S Bushmaster 2 cannon that fires programmable airburst munitions, capable of shredding drones and infantry behind cover. It carries Spike LR-2 anti-tank missiles that can destroy enemy armor at 5 kilometers. But its real secret is its skin. In Ukraine, we saw how vulnerable armored vehicles are to anti-tank missiles. Javelins, NLAWs, and cornets turned IFVs into burning coffins. The sheer volume of cheap missiles overwhelmed traditional steel armor. The Redback solves this existential problem. It is equipped with the Israeli Iron Fist Active Protection System, APS. When an enemy fires a missile at the Redback, the vehicle doesn't just sit there and hope its armor holds. Its radar detects the incoming threat traveling at supersonic speeds. It calculates the trajectory. And milliseconds before impact, it fires a counter-munition, a small explosive interceptor, that destroys the missile in mid-air, meters away from the hull. It is a force field made of shrapnel and math. This capability changes the physics of the battlefield. It allows Australian infantry to advance into the teeth of enemy fire with a level of confidence that no other army in the region possesses. While other nations are cutting their heavy armor numbers, arguing that tanks are dead because of drones, Australia is doubling down. We are building the heaviest, toughest, most technologically dense vehicle in our history. This is the Iron Revolution. It is a rejection of the idea that a middle power has to have a middle-class military. The Redback proves that Australia can punch at the heavyweight level. It sends a message to any adversary looking south. If you want to fight on Australian soil, you will have to chew through steel. Welcome to Doctrine of War. Today we are documenting the birth of Fortress Australia. The narrative of Western decline often focuses on shrinking budgets, recruitment crises, and the inability to manufacture ammunition. But in Australia, something different is happening. A radical, ruthless evolution is taking place. The thesis for this episode is simple. The Australian Army has realized that it cannot fight a war of attrition. It cannot trade bodies with a superpower like China. We don't have the population. So, the Army has decided to become a force of hyperlethality. It has traded mass for capability. It has decided that one Australian soldier must be able to do the damage of 10 enemies. We are going to break down the long reach of the new missile forces, the wet Army shift to amphibious operations, and the Apache Sky that ties it all together in a lethal digital web. Let's talk about the reach. For most of its history, the Australian Army's reach was defined by the range of a 155mm howitzer, about 20 to 30 kilometers. If the enemy was further away than that, the Army was helpless. It had to call the Air Force or the Navy and ask for help. It was a dependent force. That dependency is over. The Army has acquired its own strategic clause. Enter the HIMARS High Mobility Artillery Rocket System. We have seen HIMARS in action in Ukraine. We know it works. We know it destroys logistics hubs and command posts. But Australia isn't just buying the trucks off the shelf from America. In January 2026, The government confirmed a critical milestone in the Sovereign Guided Weapons and Explosive Ordnance (GWEO) enterprise. We aren't just importing the missiles, we are starting to make them. The GMLRS, Guided Multiple Launch Rocket System, and the PRSM, Precision Strike Missile, are the game changers. The PRSM has a range in excess of 500 kilometers. Let that sink in. An army truck, parked on a beach in northern Queensland, or hidden under a camouflage net in the scrub of the Northern Territory, can fire a missile that travels 500 kilometers and hits a moving ship with pinpoint accuracy. This is the strategy of denial. Australia doesn't need to meet the enemy on the beach with rifles. We don't need to fight a desperate hand-to-hand battle in the surf like Saving Private Ryan. We can kill the enemy invasion fleet while it is still in the blue water, long before they can even see the coastline. We can sink their amphibious assault ships before they launch a single landing craft. It turns the army into a maritime power. An artillery battery is no longer just supporting infantry, it is a land-based anti-ship unit. It creates a kill zone around the continent that no admiral in their right mind would sail into. It forces the enemy to stay back, to operate at ranges where their own aircraft are less effective. And because we are manufacturing the missiles domestically, we are immune to the supply chain blockades that cripple other nations. If the sea lanes are cut, the factories in Australia keep running. The magazines stay full. We don't have to beg Washington for resupply in the middle of a war. This is the definition of Fortress Australia. It is a self-sustaining, prickly, lethal entity that projects power outwards, denying the sea to any adversary. But to project that power, you have to be able to move. And you can't drive a Redback to the Philippines. You can't drive a HIMARS to the Solomon Islands. The wet army in the Apache sky. This brings us to the most radical cultural shift, the wet army. For a century, the Australian Army was a land creature. It viewed the ocean as a barrier, or as something you crossed on a Navy ship to get to the war. Once you got there, you got off the ship and fought on dry land. The water was the Navy's problem. That mindset is extinct. The future operating environment is the littoral, the coastal zones, the archipelagos, the swamps, and the beaches. In January 2026, the Australian government signed the $125 million contract with Birdon for the new Littoral Maneuver Vessel, Patrol, LMVP, and the new amphibious vehicles, AVL. The visuals of this are striking. We are seeing Australian soldiers training to drive vehicles directly from the well deck of a landing ship, plunging into the ocean, driving through the surf, and storming a beach. We are seeing them operate Zodiacs and riverine patrol boats. These aren't the old, slow landing craft of World War II. These are fast, agile connectors designed to move small, dispersed teams of Island Commandos across the vast gaps of the Pacific. The Army is trading its camouflage for life jackets. It is becoming a Marine Corps in everything but name. Why? Because the archipelagic strategy demands it. If you want to put a HIMARS launcher on a remote island to block a choke point, you need to be able to get it there without a port. You need to be able to beach, shoot, and scoot. You need to be able to survive in a dispersed, island-hopping campaign where the front line is everywhere. This creates a force that is comfortable in the chaos of the littoral. It is a force that can hide in the mangroves, operate small boats, and treat the ocean not as a barrier but as a highway. It transforms the geography of the North from a vulnerability into an asset. It aligns the Australian Army perfectly with the U.S. Marine Corps' Force Design 2030. It means Australian and American units can plug and play. An Australian landing craft can carry U.S. Marines. A U.S. hovercraft can carry an Australian Redback. It is total integration. It means that in a future conflict, the adversary won't be able to tell where the Australian Army ends and the U.S. Marines begin. And watching over this wet, iron force is the new predator of the sky, the AH-64E Apache Guardian. In early 2026, the first operational Apaches touched down in Townsville, replacing the troubled and controversial Tiger ARH helicopters. The Tiger was a mistake. It was a European design that never quite fit the Australian requirements. It struggled with data links and integration. It was a peacetime helicopter. The Apache is a war machine. It is the gold standard. But the Echo model AH-64E is not just a helicopter with Hellfire missiles. It is a flying command center. It has the manned-unmanned teaming MUMT capability. An Apache pilot can control a drone flying 20 kilometers ahead. The drone sees the target, lasers it, and the Apache fires the missile from behind a mountain range, never exposing itself to fire. It connects the Army to the Navy and the Air Force. The Apache can receive target data from an F-35 or a Hobart-class destroyer. It can share that data with the Redback IFVs on the ground. It is the glue that binds the fortress together. For an enemy commander, this is a nightmare scenario. They aren't just fighting a tank or a soldier. They are fighting a network. If they try to land tanks, the Redbacks eat them with spike missiles. If they try to sail ships, the HIMARS sink them with PRSMs. If they try to hide in the jungle, the Apaches and drones find them with thermal optics. This is the evolution. From a small, colonial expeditionary force designed to help great powers fight wars in distant deserts, to a sovereign, lethal, high-tech fortress designed to defend the continent and its approaches. Australia has stopped pretending to be a small power. We have accepted the reality of our geography and the danger of our times. We have decided that if we are going to be a middle power, we are going to be the sharpest, hardest, most dangerous middle power on Earth. The desert rats are gone. The Island Commandos are here. And they are ready. Thanks for watching Doctrine of War. Do you think the shift to a wet army is the right move for Australia, or should we have focused more on drones? Let us know in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay realistic, and we'll see you in the next one.